My name's Holly Slingsby. I was born in Oxford in 1983. I'm currently based in Margate in the UK. I studied at the Ruskin School of Drawing at Oxford University from 2003 to 2006, and then I did an MA in Fine Art Media at the Slade in London from 2008 to 2010. I first started making performance while I was at the Ruskin in Oxford, making objects that needed some kind of human interaction to sort of activate them, like an articulated hand attached to a glove that would move a series of hands, things like that. The way that I work has always been very much based in researching and reading and looking at lots of things, and looking particularly at painting and art historical references. So for this residency at Bòlit in Girona, the town itself is really a rich resource for me in terms of the architecture and the public sort of sculpture that's embedded in that architecture, and the museum collections as well. So I'm spending quite a lot of time looking at those and kind of drawing inspiration from those and the narratives that they represent. I'm particularly interested in religious and mythological narratives and how those have been represented in different periods of art history, and art historical tropes coming back as almost a sort of collective unconscious where images resurface and are appropriated in different cultures and resurface in different but similar formats across different cultures. So for example, I've always been interested in statues of the Virgin Mary and of other mother goddesses, and there's obviously a lot of that in Girona, so I'm looking at a lot of the imagery of the Virgin and the Madonna in Girona, and also the kind of ritual and ceremony surrounding the cult of the Virgin. So while I've been here, it's been the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, and it's been really interesting to see how that's celebrated here. So all these kind of things kind of distill in my mind, and I like to just kind of feed myself with lots of reading and looking at things. And then simultaneously I've been exploring the city, looking for locations where I might perform. And I'm particularly interested in spaces that look like spaces for public performance. So I'm reading currently a lot of medieval miracle plays that would have been performed outside churches or in town squares, and the plays I'm reading are English, but I'm kind of imagining these town squares and plazas as places where these kind of performances might take place, and also kind of participatory performance activities like folk dancing. So I've been kind of looking at the spaces with those things in mind and thinking about how the architecture frames the performance space in public, and kind of scouting out for somewhere to make the performance. And then on top of that, I'm also looking at the staircases around the city, which there are obviously lots of. I'm thinking about Dante's Purgatory and the ascent of the Mount of Purgatory, where he's climbing the mount and he's seeing all these different characters on these different levels of the mountain, and how the imagery of their sins being purged as they climb the mountain, so as they climb, things are left behind. So thinking about using the architecture of the staircase as this kind of metaphor, and also as this kind of formal trope for being able to kind of shed objects as I'm moving through the space of the performance. So that's currently how I think the work is going to take shape for the performance at the end of the residency. On top of that, I've also been making some drawings and some video, some performance to camera work in the city, so finding some of these other more hidden locations and improvising with props and costumes in those spaces to camera, and probably I'll continue to work with that footage when I get back to England. So there'll be the performance, and then hopefully there'll also be this kind of other work that comes out of being here.